I'm not a classical poet. I have read more Hindi poetry and then I learned Urdu poetry later in my life. I got a call from Tourism Ministry of Pakistan and she has requested them to make me recite this song to her. And she was very ill, so I was very touched.
Apart from Mom, according to you, which you think is one of your most satisfying?
Another satisfying moment is writing song Maula. Darare darare mathe pe Maula. I got a call from Tourism Ministry of Pakistan that there is this lady who is very ill, very old, and she has requested them to make me recite this song to her, and she was very ill, so I was very touched, and I recited Maula Maula to her, and she cried, and that was a moment like across the border, somebody out there wants to listen to, and she said, I could not believe that you are not a Muslim.
Kya baat?
I can't believe you are a Hindu, she said. Oh, you lied. I said, see, it is devotion. It is Sufism. Sufism is what I've been brought up with. And I told her how the visual of darare darare mathe pe Maula, marammat muqaddar ki kar de Maula, kaise aaya mere zehn mein. My house in Rampur, where I grew up as a child, next to my house was this, dargah. And when I used to go to school, we always used to go through the dargah. My mother used to say, you go there first and then go to school. So I used to go there. And there was this old lady. I also used to see her there. She had this like forehead. She was maybe 95 or something. And she used to be just doing this the whole day. Probably she was not well mentally also. But I remembered her forehead had so many of these lines. And that's the expression which came to my mind, that these are cracks on your forehead. And all you are trying to do is I'm trying to repair those cracks. So when I wrote that, I called Rahman. Rahman was complete. Rahman waited for 1 year for me to write this song because I could not come up with any thought. And the day I came up with this thought, I called him and I explained to him, because it's in Hindi and Hindi is his second language, third language maybe. But he was very touched. And then rest is what people love.
Two more of your songs from Rang De Basanti, Khoon Chala and Rubaru.
Yeah.
I think they are brilliant numbers as well.
Yes, Khoon Chala, Rubaru, they're pretty good. I mean, I like fun numbers also. I like Masti Ki Pathshala, I like Masakali. Those are also fun numbers. In my own way, I try to bring poetry alive. I don't call myself...
Genda Phool.
Yeah, Genda Phool. I try to bring poetry. Bushad Pahine Khaile Bila Pan. I try to do whatever I can do in my own way. I'm not a classical poet. I've read poetry. I have read more Hindi poetry and then I learned Urdu poetry later in my life. But it doesn't matter. Actually, poetry is an eye. Either you have that eye. A journalist could be a poet. A cameraman could be a poet. A painter can be a poet. Everybody can be a poet. Poetry एक दृष्टि है. Poetry एक निगाह है. Poetry एक attitude है. Poetry है going beyond obvious. That is what poetry is. जो सबको दिख रहा है उसके परे क्या है, वो दिखता है poets को. And they could be in any profession. They could be any art form they are practicing. But poetry could be part of their art form. That's what I feel.
Apart from Bhag Milka Bhag, you're also done lyrics for
Teri Meri
Kahaani.
Yes,
Kunal
yes.
Kohli.
That's first time I'm working with Sajid-Wajid. So it is another great experience. Those guys are immensely talented, fantastic, fun to work with, full of jokes, great fun, and they are very, very classically trained. I did not know. I only heard their very, chill will kind of numbers. I did not know they have, they come from such a gharanedari kind of, thing. I've been brought up in learning from Rampur Gharana myself. I did not know that, there's so much of classical music. They come from such a great classical music family.
Sure.
So now, their compositions and really good fun. I mean, I think I should have worked with them earlier.
Much earlier.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah.
So that was Prasoon Joshi talking about his experience of working with Aamir Khan once again in a different capacity, because he has written a couple of songs for Aamir's television show Satyamev Jayate. One of the songs we have seen today, it's fantastic. दूसरे गाने के बारे में नहीं बताना चाह रहे हैं, basically पत्ते अपने वो नहीं खोलना चाह रहे हैं और television show के भी. And he has also shared some wonderful, I think, experiences of writing some very fine lyrics in movies like Tare Zameen Par, Rang De Basanti and Delhi 6, and what he's doing next is Teri Meri Kahaani, that is Sajid-Wajid. He does exceedingly less work, but as he himself has said that it's not that he has to be driven, it's the project that has to drive him. The Bhag Milkha Bhag is another project that he's doing in future as well. Thank you very much for being on Bollywood Hungama.
Thank you.
And
thank
all the
you.
best
Always
wishes
pleasure.
for this television show of yours. I'm sure that people will be loving it, and you'll be getting an exceedingly very positive feedback for this another masterful creation of yours. And looking forward to the second number as well.
Thank you,
And
Faridoon.
Bhag Milkha Bhag and Teri Meri Kahaani as well.
Thank you, Faridoon. As usual, pleasure.
That's all from Bollywood Hungama. Keep on watching.